It's amazing how we never consider the potential threat of contracting sexual transmitted diseases and our prowess to fulfill a fleeting lust. The rate of hypersexual content has risen exponentially over the past 4 years. In a 2020 study, both men and women reported having weekly or more sexual activity, and in the same study, men were outnumbered 3-1 in sexual partners because of the seducing and charming abilities that a woman can use to her advantage. Despite that 33% of men are not engaging in intimacy due to the fear of divorce, scandals, or extortion, it doesn't negate the fact that the majority are practicing loose sex, which means that the women are theoretically sharing the same men. It's a cesspool out there. Finishing up my statements about that inappropriate relationship, let me just say that the woman was sentenced to life, and the husband was left with long-term guilt, anger, and regret. He's still out there today, but let's be honest. The amount of intervention, therapy, and counseling to get this man's emotions in balance from the trauma will indeed make it much more difficult for him to have a healthy relationship. More often than not, folks dealing with extreme cases of distress resort to making alcohol their best friend and any other form of hard drugs their lover. It results in a slow death and potentially becoming a stumbling block for anyone generally associated with them. According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention statistics, 75% of people who become addicts have successfully recovered, and they go on living normal lives, but not without a few relapses here and there. It's no wonder why God tried the forewarners. He said, "For wages of sin is death." He also mentioned the reason for our premature expirations by stating, "My people are destroyed for the lack of knowledge." It's fundamental to the core that without being educated on matters that can actually be put into practice rather than learning trigonometry will make you more susceptible to hazardous ordeals. If knowledge is the thing that can keep us from perishing by our own hands, then why don't we do our best to obtain such a level of intelligence? I think I found the answer, which I stumbled upon as I was formulating this transcript. It was a quote from an unknown author, and it read, "We are all born ignorant, but one must work hard to remain stupid." Unfortunately, we live in a time where good is evil and evil is good. Mental illness is surging at the same rate as criminal offenses in this world, and it doesn't seem to be slowing down as new career criminals are being cultivated each and every day. A large percentage of people in the justice system come from fatherless homes or dysfunctional households. Out of those are 66% juvenile delinquents, 71% are high school dropouts, and 85% of the youths in prison come from fatherless homes. The teachers who have voluntary custody for about 7 hours chaperoning these children during the school year could be equivalent to the same time spent when children are back at home with their legal guardian. Together with law enforcement officials, they have concluded that the lack of parental supervision at home is a major factor that contributes to the violence in schools. The misconduct continues off school premises when a child returns to the neighborhood or gather with familiar groups and faces. When they are left to their own devices, they tend to get in trouble while promoting mischievousness. Remember, you become what you think about all day long. The subconscious cannot decide or decode good or bad. It's a storehouse of ideals, and when you keep feeding that said ideal, it usually puts the body on autopilot in search of ways to fulfill it. If a painter spends most of his time in the concepts of artistry, he will end up creating masterful artwork. If you practice something long enough, you get good at it. I don't have to speak more about the facts, but you get the point. Criminals aren't born, but it's their excessive feeding on the subconscious that brings forth malignity. The world is a scary place to be a part of, but it's also a rewarding one if you see it that way. Whenever there is good, you will find evil in its midst, the same way you will find jealousy amongst admiration. Nothing is new under the sun, which means everything we see or do is being reinvented, rather for constructive enhancements or for psychotic destruction. The Bible mentioned how things would turn out as generations progressed. I would say it predicted the future before our brains could catch up to the realization of it all. It classified how people would behave. It was almost like a caution sign telling you what to be aware of so that you don't fall into the spiral of disorders. For men will be lovers of themselves, lovers of money, boastful, arrogant, abusive, disobedient to their parents, ungrateful, unholy, unloving, unforgiving, slanderous, without self-control, brutal, without love of good, traitorous, reckless, conceited, lovers of pleasure rather than lovers of God, having a form of godliness but denying his power. Turn away from such as these. Turning away from bad intent, bad behavior, and corrupted-minded individuals will be the best bet to keeping harm out of your life mentally and physically. It also will increase your level of peace the moment you start cutting off people that do not add positive value, but they insist on contributing more troubles to the overall problem. There's no need to focus on stopping this freight train of chaos. That's not this program's intention. But what you should gain from this is an understanding of the truth so that you can make informed decisions. The best option to take is to focus on separating yourself from the crowd and posture yourself in circles that promote healthy ways of thinking and living. You can even take a little bit of your time to search for informative content on desired social media platforms instead of wasting time looking at the latest dance routine on TikTok. Reading has incredible benefits. You can learn new things, increase your vocabulary, and generate new concepts. The American Library Association saw a major decline in mental disorders when subjects were given books or written material to help improve their cognition, in the hopes that it will improve their lives. Their studies found that not only does bibliotherapy improve their lives, but it actually treats mental illness or emotional disturbances. One study found that volunteers who were stressed and had elevated heart rates experienced a 68% reduction in stress after reading for just 6 minutes. Older people who read regularly were 2.5 times less likely to develop Alzheimer's, and those who deal with depression or self-esteem issues eliminated the illness because they felt connected and emotionally engaged with the characters. I think reading is a valuable skill, and it's a necessity. In addition, I recommend listening to audiobooks because you can simultaneously do things without canceling other tasks. I know a person who read over 7 books in 3 days, and another read the entire Bible in a week. Both of them have no signs of any psychological disorders, and it's all because they decided to distract themselves in books. You can do it too. Thank you.